Today, I'm going to explain to you the drop with Shedeur Sanders in the NFL draft. I'm going to talk about if there's collusion in the NFL. All right. So we have seen, I think, one of the most interesting and craziest case studies in NFL media history with the Shedeur Sanders situation. So I made a video a couple of days ago about how Mel Kiper should be fired because he had Shedeur Sanders as the number one player or the number one quarterback, which means he should have gone first overall in the draft. Number one quarterback on his board. Shedeur Sanders has yet to be picked after 3 rounds in the NFL draft. Okay. If a weatherman told you that a Category 5 hurricane was coming and to evacuate and to board up your house, and that date came and it was blue skies, they'd be fired. Okay. The draft and Shedeur Sanders' slide is a great example of the new divide between sports media and what is actually happening. I'm going to tell you this, and this is going to sound harsh. ESPN, Bleacher Report, a lot of these publications have become casuals, and they are barely watching the games. Their analysts are barely watching. They certainly don't watch games that are on in the West Coast. The awards show it. They're voting. We are seeing people forget players are on different teams. We've seen analysts forget players have retired. We've seen analysts leave players off of award voting. It's sickening, okay? And this is the culmination of that, all right? What has happened simply is that the NFL media drove a narrative that Shedeur Sanders was a top prospect, was a top 10 pick, top 3 pick, first overall pick, that level. The NFL, the scouts, the teams, the personnel simply didn't agree. That is the entire crux of what we are watching, is that the actual scouting departments and the actual personnel groups and the actual coaches just flat out did not have a grade that matched what ESPN was pushing. Now, the paradox of this is that the longer Shedeur slides, the worse ESPN looks. But ESPN is covering the draft. So ESPN has to simultaneously defend their pick. So for 3 rounds, they have had to defend their pick nonstop as Jalen Milroe goes, as Tyler Shutt goes, as Jackson Dart goes, as Dillon Gabriel goes. So the worse it gets, the more ESPN has to be outraged. The more they're outraged, the more it's in front of everyone's face. When in reality, it should just be, the grade was just wrong.
Pocket passers, old school traditional pocket passers, have to prove themselves to the NFL. The NFL doesn't go crazy over those kind of guys. They really haven't. They jumped at the opportunity to take those quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, people were debating Ryan Leaf. Bill Polian took him. They said, I had calls, people saying, well, he should be a 3rd-round pick. This was Peyton Manning. So Shedeur Sanders, I got the same thing. I fought it, but I've had to fight it a lot, right? With the calls coming and say, no, he's not. Yeah, he's not that. Because he's not 6'3", 230, doesn't have the rocket armor, doesn't run 4'6". You can't change that. But to have a quarterback with the kind of ability he shows, under duress, accurate, decision maker, tough.
So the sad part about this is because ESPN is covering the draft and presenting the draft and Mel Kiper is having to do this, he has completely taken the shine off of every other prospect. Cam Ward is the most not talked about first overall pick quarterback I've ever seen in my entire life. He got about 40 seconds of airtime. Instead of talking about Jalen Milroe, this is after Jalen Milroe was selected. Instead of talking about Jalen Milroe, immediately talking about Shedeur Sanders. Instead of talking about Dillon Gabriel, immediately talking about Shedeur Sanders. ESPN has made this even worse because they have taken the shine off of these prospects who was the biggest day of their life. They should be celebrated. Cam Ward should be being celebrated. Jalen Milroe should be being celebrated. But instead, because of their ego and hubris, Mel and whoever else have to continually defend themselves. And now they're comparing him to Peyton Manning.
This, to me, is about what I think they perceive as, you talk about cocky or confident, arrogant or charismatic, okay? Leadership. There's not going to be a show. There's not going to be a circus with Shedeur Sanders. Deion Sanders was one of the hardest working players in the history of this game. He brought with him a great work ethic. He's loved in every locker room. Atlanta Braves clubhouse, by the way. Shedeur Sanders will be the same thing. He will galvanize. And whatever perception's out there, I don't know what people are thinking is going to happen when Shedeur Sanders is brought to your football team, except he's going to work. He's going to have all those players going to rally around him. He's going to be a hell of a quarterback in this league, and he will cause a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of anguish for the teams that pass on him. Because he's going to come in, he'll have a chip, he'll come in motivated more than ever before. Kirk Cousins was the 4th-round pick, right? He was a 4th-round pick. Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick. There have been some starting quarterbacks in the NFL didn't go that early.
All right, so Mel just kind of said it. Like, this is not that crazy. Like, it's only crazy because of the previous perception built by ESPN and whoever else that he should have been a top 5 pick. But if you look at Shedeur and you look at Dak Prescott, is it crazy to think that the NFL would have the same evaluation on the two players? No. And no one would have, like, there wasn't this mass outrage that Dak Prescott should have been a first 3-round pick, right? Let's look at someone like Colt Brennan. Colt Brennan was a 6th-round pick. Colt Brennan finished 3rd in the Heisman. Okay, he had 43. I mean, look at his college stats. He had 5,500 yards, 58 touchdowns, 6th in the Heisman that year, 4,300 yards, 38 touchdowns. May God rest his soul. And Colt Brennan was a 6th-rounder. Okay, the evaluation just wasn't that strong. He was the Sammy Ball Trophy winner. He was the 2-time back-to-back WAC Offensive Player of the Year. Like I said, he finished 3rd. He was a Heisman finalist his last year. Like, Colt Brennan, insane college career. But the NFL evaluation wasn't that strong. All right? Shedeur, good year. No doubt. Like, good year. He's got some traits. He will be drafted. The question is he a 4th-round pick, 5th-round pick, 6th-round pick? Okay? He was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year last year, the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award winner last year. You look at someone like Gardner Minshew, had 4,800 yards, 38 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, a 70% completion percentage, all right, which Shedeur, 70%. Gardner Minshew was also the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award winner. He was the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year, and he was drafted in the 6th round. Okay, he was 6'2", 215. As the bottom line is, Gardner Minshew, Colt Brennan, Dak Prescott, Shedeur Sanders did not have the evaluation to be in the first 3 rounds of the NFL. That is it. The idea that there's another Mel Kiper 9-minute hitter on here somewhere, but the idea that there's collusion is crazy. The idea that there's collusion is nuts. This is the NFL, okay? The NFL will give anyone a chance if it means that they can win. All right, if it means that they can make your team better, the NFL doesn't care. I mean, we've seen it a million times. Greg Hardy, Deshaun Watson, they don't care. The NFL, there is no collusion. If you can make the team better, they're on board. Okay? You can't tell me that you honestly believe because Shedeur has a social media following and Deion Sanders is his dad, that the entire NFL would agree to not draft him. Doesn't that sound insane, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, it obviously sounds insane. Okay, so if you don't believe that, which you shouldn't, that only leads you to the evaluation was wrong. And that is why I've been saying for weeks, the national sports media is in a really bad spot right now. Really bad spot. We have heard in the last couple of months, Colin Cowherd asked Teron Armstead to his face if he was going to sign with an NFL team while he's on the Miami Dolphins. We have heard Shaquille O'Neal admit that he doesn't know who the coach of the Detroit Pistons is. He doesn't watch NBA games. We've seen awards where people have just flat out forgot to put people on ballots. D'Amico Ryans, he lost Coach of the Year because a voter forgot to put him on the ballot, and he tied with Kevin Stefanski, and Stefanski ended up winning off of like a half of a vote. It's legit happening. These guys, the analysis, all that, it's out the window. What you get now is you get Pat McAfee hitting the Benjamin Franklin on draft coverage. You got Shannon Sharp's text messages. You got Stephen A. Smith running for president while fighting LeBron James courtside. The last thing you are getting is legitimate analysis. And what happens is they run with a narrative, they get to the event, it gets thrown in their face, and they got to scramble. Because every single second that this draft is on, and every single second that Shedeur Sanders does not get picked, ESPN's looking around like, this isn't good for us. Because now, next year, and when Mel Kiper puts out his big board, you got to look at it like, does this guy know what the hell he's talking about? This guy had Shedeur Sanders as the first overall player. He got taken in round 4. He got taken in round 5, right? And the funny thing is, the ESPN is making it worse. Because if you are an NFL team and you're seeing this coverage, you might be like, we're not taking Shedeur now. We don't want this to be some huge story now, some huge thing where we got to be interviewed, asked about it, we got to do this, we got to do that. He's just a 4th-round prospect. So now, ESPN is actually making it worse, where they should just say, got the evaluation wrong. He's probably closer to Dak Prescott, Gardner Minshew, whoever else, Colt Brennan, and their evaluations. He's probably closer to that than we had him. We got it wrong. It is what it is. That's what should happen. But instead, we get this.
I think it's disgusting. That's all I can say.
It is inarguably one of the most surprising and shocking stories that I can recall in all of the years that I've been following the draft, and that is about as long as Mel Kiper has been hosting it.
I mean, listen to Mel here.
I really have nothing to say.
I have nothing to say. I am disgusted, is what he says.
It's disgusting. That's all I can say.
I have nothing to say. I am disgusted. That's it. Did he say that when Dak Prescott fell? Did he say that when Russell Wilson fell? Did he say that when Colt Brennan fell or Gardner Minshew? No. But he got this one wrong. And now it has become personal. It's now become, he is disgusted that Shedeur is going to fall. I'm telling you guys, there is a legit reckoning happening with national sports media. It is obvious. We've covered it. You can see it all over the place. And I'll give you another example. Mel Kiper, when Justin Fields was being traded from the Bears, he mentioned that the Bears should trade Fields. I think it was the Falcons at the time, for like a top 10 pick. It was basically like trade Fields for a first. And everybody else was like, brother, they're not trading Fields for a first. What in the world? You think a team is going to trade Justin Fields for a first-round pick? And he kept beating the drum. Trade him for the 8th overall pick. Then Atlanta has Fields, and then blah, 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 blah. And then he ends up being traded for a 6th-rounder. You know, it's like, it's just a real divide. And we showed, I showed y'all the Vegas betting markets where when they were talking about Shedeur possibly going to the Giants at 3, the Vegas betting markets had him like 25.5. And we were sitting here saying, like, look, he ain't going 3. Okay, the market has moved. He's not going 3. He might go 21. He might go 32, but he's not going 3. But on draft night, when the 3rd pick rolled around, they're like, all right, this might be Shedeur Sanders. So I think it's that simple. I think that's the reason for the slide, is simply the evaluation was off. And simply, it's just a perfect storm of the people who are on for 8 hours a day talking about this draft right now because they're hosting the draft. They're the ones who got it wrong. So they're trying to cover their bases. It's become this weird like collusion thing or this weird whatever. It's obvious, there's obviously not societal factors that are happening. Now, is there if in the 3rd round or the 4th round or the 5th round, could a coach say, yeah, we just don't want to bring this like storyline or whatever in? We just don't want that to be a part of the locker room? Yeah, sure. For sure. But there is not we have agreed as NFL owners, we have agreed as coaches to not allow Shedeur Sanders to play in the NFL. That is absolutely not happening. That is insane. That is crazy. Okay. So there you go. But this is a case study that we will see for a long time, and it's something that we'll talk about for a long time. I think he'll probably get drafted in that 4th, 5th round area. I think the more you look at it, he is kind of similar to Dak and Gardner Minshew and Colt Brennan. It's just we live in a different era. So that's my explanation of why Shedeur has fallen. I would not buy into too many conspiracy theories. There you go. All right, let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.